Hey everybody, Music 5 class. I'm going to make some videos for you and cover each of the lessons in the book. I will go pretty fast, with the idea being that you can go back and watch as many times as you need to try to figure out what's going on. So let's jump right in. We're on page 3. This is lesson number 1. And basically we're just talking about recognizing the notation for music. So music is something that obviously we enjoy with our ears, but when we start to learn to read music or to play music, being able to transmit it from one person to another through some other medium, this is how music came to be written down. At some point, it was too difficult to memorize or to keep track of all of these notes just with memory or with our eyes or with our ears. So we came up with this system, or somebody did, for notating music. So on page 3, we introduced the staff, and I've got an overhead camera here as well, so you can kind of see down on my staff board or onto my keyboard, whichever one we're using. The staff has 5 lines, and basically notes can be either on a line or in the spaces in between. So I can draw a note here, or I can draw a note in the space between. And these lines and spaces are numbered from the bottom up. So the bottom line we call line number 1, and it goes up through 5, and then the spaces from the bottom up are 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's what they're showing you here on page 3. You can do the exercises at the bottom of the page. It's not a big deal. You're just identifying lines and spaces, so that's not a big deal. What I will mention, however, which is kind of exercise number 4 at the bottom of this page, is just being able to discern high from low. So very simply, as you work your way up the staff, the notes that we notate are higher in pitch, meaning they sound, higher. So for instance, if I play the piano, something like this, like a scale, usually it's pretty easy for people to tell that this is the lowest note, and as I move to the right, they get higher, so that note is higher than this one. So it's the same thing on the staff. When I put notes on the staff, the ones that are on the bottom are lower in pitch, and as we work our way up, they go higher. No big deal. Okay, let's go to the next page. So now for lesson 2, we're working with the treble clef, and clefs are basically a way to organize where the notes are on the staff. So the treble clef, which is this cool looking thing, it'll look better in the book than what I'm about to scribble, but you get the idea. Okay, so this is called the treble clef. Sometimes it's called the G clef, because this sort of circle right here encapsulates that second line. And in the treble clef, the note that lives on the second line is the note G. So sometimes we call this the G clef. So knowing that notes can be on the lines or the spaces, and knowing that that's the note G, the second line from the bottom, we basically introduce the musical alphabet, and we can either go up, which means forward, or we can go down, which means backward in the musical alphabet. So if you look at page 4, they show all the notes of the treble staff, and I'll kind of fill in some of this here on mine as well. And what you'll see is that it kind of looks like the alphabet, especially when you start here on A, and as we go to the right, the notes go up. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F. And then as you go to the left, the notes go down. That really should be on the line. So starting from A, when we go down, we kind of go backwards in the musical alphabet. And since there are only 7 letters in the musical alphabet, the thing that comes before A is kind of the last letter. It's the letter G. Okay, if I go here, if we kept going up, that would be a G right there. So we have A through G, and when we go down from A, when we go lower than A, we go backwards to a G, and then F and E, and we're just moving backwards in the alphabet. Okay, so they've also given you some mnemonic devices for learning to kind of memorize these lines and spaces in the treble clef. These are pretty old. They go back to even when I was a little kid in music, music class in elementary school. So the lines are "Every good boy does fine," and the spaces actually spell the word face. So that's fine. You can kind of use these mnemonic devices to get started. But I would say that musicians really don't think this way. We become so familiar with the system of notation that we can look at a line or look at a note and pretty much instantly know what it is. So it's just practice. Like all things, you just have to have exposure and practice. And so on the bottom of page 4, if you want to try those exercises, filling in the notes on the treble clef, here's your big chance. Let's move to page 5. Same idea, but now we're in the bass clef. And the bass clef is sometimes called the F clef. You'll notice there are 2 dots here, and they kind of encapsulate that 4th line from the bottom. And the note that lives on that 4th line is the note F, which is why we call it the F clef. So again, extrapolating our musical alphabet, if we go up or forward in the alphabet, then this next note would be a G, and the top line there would be an A. And if we go backwards in our musical alphabet, this space would be an E, this line would be a D, C. You get the idea, right? So there's kind of a more clear looking musical alphabet where it starts in an A and goes up to an A. So the bottom space is an A. And if you look at the mnemonic devices for the bass clef, they have for the lines, "Good boys do fine always." And for the spaces, "All cows eat grass," or we used to say "all cars eat gas." I guess maybe that's changing. So once again, you can practice the exercises at the bottom of page 5 and just get used to where these notes are on the staff, depending on if you're in the treble clef or the bass clef. Let me say one more thing, and then I'll end this quick lesson. And that is that when we get to the piano, basically we're going to divide the piano into treble clef and bass clef. So bass, just like the bass knob on your stereo, if you see that sort of thing, it means low, right? So these are the bass notes down here. And the treble notes are the higher notes. So they kind of start here in the middle of the keyboard and work their way to the right. So that's the high stuff. The bass clef is going to be where all the low notes live. Cool. All right. I'll come back at you with another video.